Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddler Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we are heading back to the ball field for another baseball-centric episode, which has produced some pretty solid results in the past when it comes to Simpsons episodes. But raging in the dugout, ready to come out and charge the mound to get in the umpire's face or whatever, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I'm glad you're continuing the age-old adage of me becoming a grumpy old man. Fling that going forward. Miles, I must say, last week's episode was fantastic, but I can't wait to dive into this one to see just how great this goes for us today. So, again, thank you to our guest that showed up last week, and I'm ready to see if we can handle this just by ourselves from now on. So let me see if I can throw it back to you. The man, the myth. If he's a friend of Marge, he's a friend of mine. It's Miles.
Oh my God, I love that line so much. Any friend of Marge is a friend of mine. Oh man, we are talking about the episode Hungry Hungry Homer today, which originally aired on March 4th in the year 2001. This episode's title is obviously reflective of the board game that was very, very popular at the time. We do get the chalkboard gag. Temptation Island was not a sleazy piece of crap. And I had to do a little bit of detective work on this one because it turns out there are more than one show called Temptation Island. If you don't believe me, I was surprised to find at least 3. However, I am almost positive, based on the year and timing of when this episode came out, that this is a reference to the reality show in which a couple was taken to a private island and then surrounded by very attractive members of the opposite sex. And by all notes and reviews, I should say, on IMDb, it was in fact a sleazy piece of crap.
I just imagine that like a teacher said something about the show, and then Bart got the class against the teacher, so the teacher's making
it's like Mrs. Krabappel's favorite show.
I honestly don't think it was.
Honestly,
I don't think it was Mrs. Krabappel in this one. I honestly think it was Miss Hoover. I don't know why.
Oh, no joke.
I just feel like this
Miss
would be
Hoover
a Miss
gets
Hoover
herself
show.
like a little bit of brandy and like watches the dudes try to seduce that chick and has herself a good night and a cigarette.
Yeah, doesn't that not make sense to you? I feel like
honestly it tracks. Yeah, I'm with it.
A lunchroom setting that where like something said and Bart starts like a food fight over Temptation Island being a sleaze fest.
And based on how she's been portrayed in the past, you could argue that like this show isn't sleazy enough for Mrs. Krabappel. Like she would be bored by this. She's watching some like more hardcore porn. Yeah, exactly. She's like, I can't even smoke to this, let alone get off. The couch gag.
I had somebody new for my job want our show name last night, and they're like, "Is your show?" I go, "We swear a little bit," and they're like, "Is your show rated R, NC-17?" And I was like, "R."
R. You do enough dad jokes with the punchline R to qualify us back down, I think.
Yeah, and then he's like, "As long as it doesn't talk about a bunch of sex stuff, it's fine." And I was like, "I don't think we do."
So is your friend afraid of pussy or his own love of dick?
Well, no, he's going to have his 12-year-old listen to the show with him.
Oh, my bad. Way to be a good father. I was trying to roast him. His 12-year-old swears. It's fine.
He said the language wouldn't bother him, but he said he might have to listen to an episode on his own first to see.
Well, now I feel like a real asshole. Hopefully it's not this one.
I hope it is this one. That makes it funnier.
Oh man, we talked about a really sleazy show for the chalkboard gag. For the couch gag, we get a reference, in my opinion, another Simpsons predicts the future, because they're very much Cobra crying that couch away. I even put strike first, strike hard, no mercy.
I figured that was you that did that in the script, because I was like, the person that did the script wouldn't do
I did that for sure.
They're not even wearing Cobra Kai uniforms in that one, but I did enjoy the opening couch gag on this one.
They're all doing karate and they like chop the furniture to pieces.
And then Homer has the remote.
What? We open in one of the funniest ways, I think, just like the quickest possible joke ever. Because instantly it just opens to, instead of Homer like strangling Bart, you can just tell that he has just been strangling Bart. Like that to me is somehow even funnier than him just strangling Bart. Just that it's like happened so often that it's that recognizable. It's
Up to your old shenanigans again.
It's like a pan out from a commercial, or I think you can, like, he's getting distracted from the end of this choke out with a commercial for Blocko Land, where everything is made of blocks, and is apparently based on a theme park that has been around a lot longer than I realized. I'm not gonna lie. When I started watching this, I was like, was Legoland even a thing in 2001? But Legoland opened in May of 1999, so it had been around. Or I'm sorry, March 20th of 1999. So it had been around for essentially 2 years at this point. And I did learn from the commentary, which featured Mike Scully, Ian Maxtone Graham, Matt Selman, Max Cross, John Frank, Don Payne, Phil Rosenthal, and Phil Rosenthal's 14-year-old son, Ben, who identified as a super fan of the series. And he was a little bit shy and awkward because he was 14 and thrown into a commentary booth with a bunch of fucking adults. But he was interesting in some of his thoughts on The Simpsons. It was neat to see somebody who is essentially, by my math, about 10 years younger than you and I, talking about the state of The Simpsons at the time that this commentary, which was being made, which is in my guesstimate, approximately 2007.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm gonna say like 6 years younger than us. I want to make us.
Well, no, he's definitely, when he was 14 at that time, I mean, he's definitely like 9 to 10 years older than us if you do the math on it. But I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna get into the math. I heard.
Did I not just give you the math wrong? Is that right? We should just turn this into a correcting each other's math podcast.
Yeah. At first, you said he was 14 in 2007, and I was like, well, he's 14 in 2001, and you fast forward 20 years, that puts him basically like 2 years younger than us. But if he's 14 and 2008, then that also, or 2007, then we have to add 6 years.
Yeah, gotcha. So that's what it is. 7 or 8 years older. So what it is realistically, I'm just making the guesstimate, and you're right. By 2007, I think the commentary is probably 2008 would be my best guess. 2001 is when the episode came up, and already I'm bored of this. But he's somewhere younger.
It's fun to me.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll say 8 years for whatever, and then let somebody else figure it out.
I'm peace with the world right now.
Cool. But yeah, this is making fun of Legoland. This is the points of all of that, I think. Al Jean is who thought of this idea, and it's basically because he took his daughter to Legoland, is the idea that inspired this concept. And you know what? I'm going to save that part for later because it's one of the more interesting things, but I'm going to tease it for the end because I'd rather wait and talk about it then. Let's get into this episode. Homer's more excited to go to Blocko Land than the kids are. Bart and Lisa, when asked, are basically like, meh. Which they actually did point out in the commentary. This was the year, again, whatever year this commentary for the season 12 DVD of The Simpsons was recorded. That was the year that meh was added to the Webster's dictionary. And they said that the definition did mention that it had a hazy origin, but is often credited to The Simpsons.
I always credit it to The Simpsons because they even spell it by this point. So
I think that what it really comes down to is arguably somebody did say that phrase, meh, like before The Simpsons did, but I think The Simpsons are the ones that like drove it into pop culture, and that's why they're given the credit the way that they were.
Yeah. Guilt by association, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was trying to remember the freaking dad joke for Legoland, and it's killing me. I think it was, why do people want to go to or people are so excited to go to Legoland, they lined up for blocks, I think. I don't know. It doesn't work when I'm not selling it. I can't remember what it was. I think that was...
Oddly enough, Marge is the more enthusiastic member of the family who's excited to go to the Blocko Land. And when I say everything is made of blocks, I do mean everything, because even like the tram cars they're getting on have square wheels. The slides they go down are like block. So there's like a small drop for every single
Maggie
one.
was excited to go too, Miles. She literally put herself in the car seat and started hopping out of the room. And they were like, "Oh, how cute!" And then you heard the car start, and they're like, "Oh."
Now seems like as good a time to any is to have another side tangent and get distracted. A friend of ours that will be appearing on the show at some point is like listening to our old episodes. I know you know who this person is. We'll talk about him later, but he basically pointed out that we talked about Maggie being a Jedi and magical Maggie years before they did that Star Wars special.
Nice.
We should get a special credit in that, much like we're getting that credit in another project I'm excited to talk about in a few months.
Nice. We got credits for days. You know,
am I teasing enough weird shit at this point?
Yeah, everything's so obscure. And
I'm ready to get to a point of this podcast where we just like no longer have to do anything and can just point out all the cool stuff that we've already done, and then people can just carry us places. Yeah, that's the real goal of this show.
and more random tangents. Squirrel.
When you record enough of us talking that they can just like edit episodes together of us reviewing a Simpsons episode based on the things that we've already said, I think that's a good goal too. Much like they make modern day Simpsons episodes.
Or the chef episode of South Park.
Exactly. Yeah. They like roll up to Legoland again, or I'm sorry, Blocko Land. I won't be the only one that makes that mistake, actually. There's like block cowboys, a block Lincoln. That's a funny moment. Two of the character actors like bump into each other and get stuck, much like Legos do. So an attendant has to come in and like pry them apart. I like that bit a lot.
Or Blocko blocks, Miles.
Again, Blocko blocks. Not like what is Lego? Is that some sort of waffle company? I don't know. They look at the map, and another just fantastic. There's a joke that references Marge in this episode that is like the best, and then a great Marge joke, which is right now. They're looking at the different options of lands that they can visit in this theme park. There's Rectangle Land, Cube Country, or Squaresville.
Squaresville sounds pretty cool.
I love her delivery on that so much because she like doesn't sense the irony of what she's saying, which is really, really great. Homer has some fun looking at some block funhouse mirrors. One that makes him look like if he's assembled by blocks. The other makes him look like a robot, which it's basically just a squattier, shorter version of the same mirror. Mm-hmm. But he has fun with it.
I am a robot. Do what I say. And then he goes to the second mirror where he looks the exact same, just shorter, like Miles said. I am a washing machine. Do what I say.
And he thinks it's like the funniest thing ever. Oh, man. Even in the arcade, we get block-themed games because they've got the Rock'em Sock'em robots that Nelson and Bart are playing. Pretty cool that Nelson just so happened to be there the same day.
Yeah, I felt bad because I was wondering how he could afford to get in there. And
I realized he like crawled through the fence.
Yeah.
That's how I had justified it. They're playing this Rock'em Sock'em robot game, which is like the point is to punch each other until one of your heads pops off or whatever. But then like when Bart knocks Nelson's robot's head off, or I'm sorry, I think it's the other way around. But the attendant comes up and basically is like, "You knocked his block off," and then he drags him out as if he'd done something wrong. We see a build-your-own meal buffet, which is pretty cool. You can go and grab blocks of whatever food items you'd like. Homer is proud of himself for making good choices because he built himself a healthy apple.
But you made it out of ham cubes.
Yep, a shiny new apple. And then he like shines the apple as you would like by rubbing it on the shirt. But because it's ham, it just leaves this like disgusting grease stain.
But it looks mighty tasty, Miles.
I mean, it's ham. It's like nature's candy, as Homer said.
There you go.
We see the Homer and Lisa, I believe, or no, it might be Homer and both kids. I can't remember. Definitely Homer and Lisa are involved. They're riding a water ride where everything is made of blocks, including the water, which gives us a couple of great visual gags.
The funny thing about this moment is like Homer realizes like the entire park at this point is made of blocks. Like
Right.
I get it.
It's
Everything's
his
made
light
of
bulb
blocks.
his light bulb moment, like
Yeah.
hours
It's like
later
hours.
than it should have been.
Yeah.
And in this triumphant realization, he starts splashing Lisa with the blocks of water. So it's basically he's just like hitting her with like little pieces of plastic blocks. But the attendant gets mad and he starts walking across the water, which would make sense if it's made of blocks. But when Homer jumps out, he sinks down beneath it.
That was
Just
really
a
funny
great visual gag again.
And he has to climb back into the boat for safety.
And he's got like blocks dripping off of him. And then the leeches, dude. The leeches are the best part because like he rips his shirt up and he's got blocks stuck to his stomach. And he's like, leeches. And he starts like plucking them and throwing them.
The staple of every movie that takes place in the jungle.
Exactly. Yeah, literally every movie you've ever seen that takes place in a like jungle environment, there's going to be at least one awkward leech scene where somebody like has to pick leeches off of somebody else's either genitals or butt.
Happens every time. We have that new Sandra Bullock movie coming out with Channing Tatum. They have that scene,
and they already have leeches teased in it, dude. Yeah. And tell me that's not just like an excuse for like Channing Tatum to like be like, look, I've got abs and whatever.
That's an excuse for Channing Tatum to be like, I've got abs. You want me to tell you that? So I told you.
So the Simpsons are on their way home from what seemed like a really great day at Blocko Land. Everybody had a really good time, except for Bart had decided he was pretty bummed about his souvenir choice because he bought a T-shirt made out of blocks.
Oh, why did I get this Lego shirt?
Don't you mean Blocko shirt?
Right. Blocko shirt.
Lisa also got a souvenir. She got a Blocko, not to be confused with a Lego Eiffel Tower, which is an actual product, I'm pretty sure. But she's bummed because one of her pieces is missing, and it seems like a pretty vital one because it's like one of the corner leg pieces, basically. But Homer's response when he points this out is like, well, welcome to real life, Lisa. You can't fight City Hall, aka Blocko Land, so don't even try.
What kind of thing is that to tell your children?
It's what I always tell them. I told them that twice yesterday, and then again as they were going to sleep.
I'm sure the gift shop will replace the missing piece.
You're right, honey. Hear that, kids? The Simpsons are going to Blocko Land. Yay! Which is like literally just repeating like what happened earlier. And we see the car turn around.
In the middle of the highway, they do a U-E.
They just stop right in the middle of the highway and flip it. They get back and Blocko Land is closing for the night, and there's like men working like men basically like unbuilding the entire thing, disassembling it and putting it into giant bins to say Blocko Land overnight storage, which is just insane to think about that being a daily process.
Yeah, like that just stresses me out thinking that they have to rebuild it every day.
That sounds like some sort of like creative like version of hell that somebody would be sent to. Homer approaches the souvenir stand where he's like gets very aggressive immediately about like them selling her a shoddy Eiffel Tower.
Hey, tough luck, pal. You can't fight the souvenir industry. We're too powerful. And
Homer immediately takes that as like, yeah, they're right. And he kind of walks away. But then he's like, you know what? I can give this man a little souvenir of my own. Which you think he's gonna like punch the guy. Yeah, he's like angry, but then he pulls around and he offers him a snow globe with a little tiny Homer in it. And it works because the souvenir guy is like touched by this like, offer of kindness. He's like, I'll tell you what. And he reaches under the desk where there's literally a box titled Missing Eiffel Tower Pieces. And he just grabs one and tosses it to Homer.
Thank you, Dad.
Lisa and Homer are now driving on the way back, and this is the probably, in my opinion, the best joke in the episode, because when Lisa says "Thank you, Dad," Homer replies, "Hey, any friend of Marge is a friend of mine." And that inspires Homer to start standing up for the little guy more often. He decides that he's not just going to stand by idle anymore. And he proves this when they pull up on the police who are seemingly just beating Snake savagely. Like really, really gives you honestly, I'm pretty sure they were going for like Rodney King vibes is what they were trying to make it look like. But in this case, it was Snake who is getting hit. And when Homer chases the cops off, he like reassures them, hey, those bullies are gone now.
You idiots. They were beating out my shirt fire.
And we can see that Snake is in fact on fire. And because he's no longer getting the flames beaten off of him, he is now catching back on fire. But Homer just is like, hey, my heart was in the right place, jerk. And he drives off.
Gravel like spewing up in Snake's face at that point.
Yeah, he definitely made the situation worse. But it didn't deter Homer. Homer is still determined to start helping out more. In fact, he's looking for people with problems. He asks Bart what's troubling him, and he points out that a girl at school won't go to the dance with him. And that gets Lisa taunting him. Bart's got a girlfriend.
No, I don't. That's the problem.
Bart's got a problem.
Don't worry, son. I'll handle this.
So we see now Homer has dressed as a student, and it very much reminds you of that meme, hey, fellow kid or fellow youth or whatever it is, where the guy's like standing there with like a skateboard. He's clearly 45.
That's about to be us, Miles.
Well, yeah, only I don't make a habit of hanging out at schools. I don't know about you. Homer is sitting next to the girl that Bart likes, which turns out to be one of the twins, Sherry. And he just starts kind of reasoning with her. Come on, why won't you go out with Bart?
He's a smelly, ugly dork.
Please. Ugly is such a smelly word. Who would you rather go out with?
Tommy.
And we see a boy that literally has like angelic like music playing around him and like lighting that is like unnatural because he's, dreamy or whatever. And Homer cuts this off with, well, duh, he's breathtaking. But Bart has inner beauty like you'd find in a rodent. We cut to Bart, who's literally like gnawing on a cracker, very rat-like. His face even has more rat-like features than it normally does. And Homer continues to point out that Sherry's no prize either. I mean, you wear braces, you dress like a kid, and you're not getting any younger.
He's right. Grab something and don't let go.
This is Mrs. Grabopple chiming in with her wisdom of being lonely, essentially. And it works. Sherry decides that maybe Bart isn't so bad after all. So these two random adults bullied this girl into dating a 10-year-old.
Whoa. Homer was the role of a child in this scene, Miles.
Okay, fair. He was his character took over the moment, so it wasn't that weird.
The fourth grader with the 5 o'clock shadow was there. I mean, what could go wrong?
Oh man. Homer's helping out everywhere, though. He's even trying to stand up for his wife more, Marge, who is disappointed that her coupon for 2 free hair streaks was turned down. And Homer decides that Sorry?
I was saying, no, how dare they?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying no, like I fucked up. And I was like, what did I do, bro? What I miss?
My acting has gotten so good.
Again, the character took over, and I just lost it all. My bad. Yeah, the 2 street coupon is not honored. Oh, I was pausing for your line. Okay, we'll get on track eventually. One day, maybe year 6 is our year. That's the year that we're gonna really get in sync together. That's the truth. But Homer decides he's going to go in and have a talk with this hairdresser who's turned down his wife's coupon. The guy seems very nice. He's very much a hairdresser. I'll let you read between the lines on that. But Homer starts saying things like, nice place you got here. Oh, look, a hairnet. And he drops it. It'd be a shame if it was hurled to the ground. But, he tries to hurl it to the ground, but it's a hairnet, so he kind of can't. And just
slowly
gently floats. How clumsy of me. He also unscrews a jar lid that's on there and just drops it on the counter. Oops.
Why are you doing these things?
Either you honor my wife's coupon or a lot more lids will be unscrewed.
I cannot streak that much hair. Think of the cost. I'd be ruined.
Oh, really? And I really actually like this cut
scene
a lot. Yeah, I don't know what it is about this scene. It didn't feel. It felt like a very unique joke in a lot of ways. And I don't know. I guess you do a lot of cutaway gags in other shows and whatnot, but it definitely goes in a different direction that you'd expect. We could literally cut to Homer in the back and like a tax, like he's got like the calculator with like the paper coming off of it and like a little hat and glasses. And he looks like he's doing taxes or accounting, which he is, because he realizes like, oh my God, you were not kidding. Your profit margins are razor thin.
You see, this is what I'm.
Wait a second. $400 a month for Loafer Lightner?
But we must have it. It is the lifeblood of the industry.
We cut out for a wide shot and see that there's another hairdresser who's dipping his loafers in the like lightener, making sure to bleach them so they're perfectly white. And Homer points out, because Homer is apparently an expert in this field, you get the same results with a mincing gel.
But of course, I will save thousands. Thank you.
And we cut to Marge and Homer back at home. Marge now has her streaks, and she couldn't be happier with her husband. She loves her fucking Bride of Frankenstein looking streaks going through her hair, and cannot thank her husband enough.
Oh, homie, I love them. I can't thank you enough, as Miles said.
Yeah, again, we'll get it together in year 6, guys. That's going to be our time to shine. Because the satisfaction of helping another human being is all the thanks et cetera, et cetera. Homer's even taking his newfound approach in life out of the home and to the bar, where he tells the regulars about how helpful he's been. And then he's like, and I gave that man directions, even though I didn't even know the way, because that's the kind of guy I am this week.
That seems like a really long act 1.
We was just about to say, we ended this first act at almost exactly the 7-minute mark, 6:58, which means that this is going to be a very balanced episode, more than likely, or at least the first half is presenting that it will. I think this one just feels long because we came from an uncharacteristically short, like, oh no, that was the second act last week. I have no idea why this one feels long. Probably just because a lot of stuff happened. We went on a trip.
The random tangents
we helped 3 people. We did some taxes or finances. Like
I have no idea what the A plot is in this episode yet.
We literally haven't even introduced the A plot at this point. Yeah. But we do immediately start up the second act right there from Moe's, where Lenny starts coming in complaining about how crappy the Springfield Isotopes have been playing ever since they were bought by the Duff Corporation.
Wait a minute. Duff owns the Springfield Isotopes? Since when?
Another line I absolutely love here by Moe. Hey, they bought him a year ago from the Mafia. It was the last of the family-owned teams.
I tried to return my season tickets, but they wouldn't give me my money back. They said they wanted it.
I love the idea that this evil corporation wanted the money, so they said no. Homer decides, of course, he's going to help out Lenny, which surprises him. But Moe's even pointing out that like he's a new Homer now.
He's wonderful.
Carl gets a little infatuated there for just a moment. But Homer is going to go chase down the highest place, the most powerful man he can find at the stadium, at the ballpark. So he walks up to what is very clearly an equipment shed and asks, is this the executive office of the team's home fields?
No, it's the equipment shed.
And he starts pointing around to various things that are just clearly wrong, like a closet, like that has like probably what I'm assuming is like rakes in it, like a bullpen. But we do finally cut up. Exactly. Yeah. That's his least favorite place if that lock comes open. But we do cut to Homer actually meeting with the team's owner, Henry K. Duff VIII. Who welcomes who is in he has him in his office, so apparently he allowed him in, but he does say, sir, I
walk right in.
Yeah, he just especially what we're about to find, there would be no problems with that at all, and we don't believe in locks in this place. Sir, I can't give you a refund just because the team's losing.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And he tries to take the same intimidation tactics that he had tried previously, but this Mr. Duff, Henry Duff VIII, isn't taking it. You spin that right back the way it was.
Yes, sir. It was a Rolodex that he was spinning.
Yeah, and this dude's fairly intimidating. This meeting is over.
Okay. So, you want to get something to eat?
No, I don't. Now get out of here. Wait, no, not that door, because Homer starts walking instead of out of the exit where in entrance, the door to the office as he entered. There's a door marked private that's right next to it that seems like some sort of closet of some sort. And it turns out that when he walks in, he learns that there is nothing but Albuquerque isotope gear all up in this closet. And even as dumb as Homer is, after a few moments longer than it should, he realizes that they're planning on moving the team to Albuquerque, and he calls them out on it.
No, we would never abandon our loyal Springfield fans. By the way, this barging into rooms marked private must have made you thirsty. Would you like a beer?
He does know Homer's weakness. Okay, but you can't silence Homer Simpson. I'm a friend of the downtrodden, and I'm not going to forget what I saw here today.
Of course not. Click. Duff, man, could you bring in 2 bottles of smooth, untainted Duff?
Oh, yeah.
Which he doesn't. He brings in cans, so they lie.
Even in the script right here, it says he brings in 2 bottles of Duff and 2 mugs.
Nope, they were cans. I clearly went.
I believe you.
Bottle. I remember Miles. Damn it.
So I this is another great joke here, in like this, like giving you one set of expectations and then just completely going the other direction with it in a really funny way. Mr. Duff says, "Now, Homer, we've developed this additive that makes beer super, super malty. Care to try it?" And it looks like a powdered drug that essentially would be the equivalent of like a roofie is what you're expecting.
Wait a minute. Will this erase my memory?
No, not at all. But unfortunately, the hypodermic needle that Duffman is stabbing into Homer's arm will, because he is taken out. And then the payoff is the Mr. Duff the Egg actually does pour that powder into his own beer and is like, "Man, that is malty, but he'll never know." So it really was a malt additive. The whole thing is so great.
It's so stupid, but it's perfect.
It really is. It's playing to. I think Homer is dumb here, but like not too stupid. And also, it's kind of cool to see him legitimately. I think his heart is in the right place. He's just an idiot.
That's like honestly something about this episode the whole way through. We're like, this episode is about Homer doing the right thing and possibly getting a win, which like those two things don't line up hardly ever. I feel like
very rarely. Yeah. We get a fun little reference to Peanuts here because we cut to the next morning at the Simpsons home and Homer is passed out on top of Santa Little Helper's doghouse in the backyard, very much lying in the pose that Snoopy very often does. And Bart walks out and is like, "Good grief.
Ow, my head. How long have I been out here?"
"All night. You were yelling at the swings."
"I was, but I love the swings."
"Dad, you were nuts."
"You know me. Occasionally I'll be quirky." "Albuquerque! I'll be right back."
And this play on words, or this alliteration, or whatever you call this sound-alike phrase of "I'll be quirky," reminding him of Albuquerque. It makes him realize what it's a good bit. And again, it kind of is like Homer is dumb, but like he's able to put that together. I mean, that's detective work when you've been drugged, especially. Yep. Unfortunately for Homer, though, he does remember the stuff that he stumbled upon by walking into a private room. But it seems
the locks on that equipment shed for that room right there, Miles.
They probably did, yeah. He's basically gathered a press meeting. He's gotten like all the members of the media, and they're like storming into the office, and he's basically trying to get them in like a gotcha moment. I do love that Duffman is like barely disguised. Actually, it's the same rules as Superman, really. He's got like a trench coat on over his Duffman costume, and he's like, "Excuse me, Joel Duffman, the Newsly Times. What's with the smear campaign against this beloved brewer? And weren't you once in a loony bin? Oh, yeah."
He's right, folks. The only story here is the rich, smooth taste of Duff.
And Homer's trying to get him, yeah, that is an important story, but so is this. And he opens the door, and there is absolutely nothing in it except for a lone man with a trumpet who on cue plays the wah wah.
Well, I think we know tomorrow's headline. Local man is liar.
Wow, that is a good headline. Snap, and they take a picture. I cannot say how much I adore the fact that instead of just an empty room, they paid a man with a trombone to wait until the perfect moment to wah-wah Homer Simpson as he walked in with his Albuquerque bit. Oh my God.
Something blatantly over the top that only the Simpsons could get away with.
And they talk about this on the commentary about just how like ubiquitous that note is, or that sound effect is in a writing room at a comedy writing room, because I mean so many jokes that get pitched and just like that's kind of like the running joke is like, well, that was a stinker, let's move on.
I literally put that noise into a PowerPoint slideshow for work where somebody messed up and they had something wrong, and I literally put it in their presentation they do for my new hires, or added that sound effect. It's hilarious.
That is funny, dude. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Homer is pointed out as a liar on the news. Probably not the first time. In fact, we know it's not. There's an all-out assault on his character, and Homer's upset because he has, as he points out, I don't mind being called a liar when I'm lying, or about to lie, or when I just finished lying, but not when I'm telling the truth.
But that's when Lisa says that that he needs to get the public's opinion on his side, and she brings up Cesar Chavez, and I'm laughing now because of what happens later. But she brings up how somebody did something first. I don't remember. Then she said Cesar Chavez would do a hunger strike.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what it was too. They point out like historical people who have changed people's mind through nonviolent protests, and the first one they mentioned, they just laugh at the idea of Homer being able to do that, basically. But then somehow they're like, "Yeah, hunger strike, that'll work." Marge is even laughing at him, pointing out like, "Homer, you can't do a hunger strike. You're literally eating a giant sausage right now."
No.
He's like chewing and saying like, "I'm about to start hunger strike right now," and he throws it away, and like 2 seconds, if that, after he drops it, he's like immediately regretting it. He covers his mouth with his hands almost to like block himself from being able to eat, and that horrific moment in Homer's life brings us to the end of our second act, which I was wrong. Again, this second act is only 5 minutes long, so that is another very short second act situation, leaving us with a little bit extra time for Act 3, which honestly makes sense now that I think about it, because we have quite a bit more to get through.
Best darn diddly, the new tagline: everything we say is wrong.
And we just do math every episode now. I love it. Yeah, that's we're gonna start trying new things. PEMDAS, baby. Yeah.
Nobody knows what that is anymore because they argue about it on Facebook all the time.
I think that's the only reason people still know why that's a thing. We do open up our third act with Homer now camping outside of the ballpark in a folding chair with a sign that reads, "Hungry for the truth." He's trying to tell people about the conspiracy for them to move the team, but nobody actually believes him in any manner. what is it? My hunger strike will not end until Duff admits they're moving the team. Bart, my chain. And Bart basically chains him up so that he can't cheat, essentially.
Now it begins.
Dad, I'm so proud of you. If you need some inspiration, here's a book of Mike Farrell's core beliefs.
Man, he really hates Wayne Rogers. Which, one of those just random off-put jokes there.
Yeah, I really have no idea who Mike Farrell is, but he is apparently an actor best known as Captain BJ Honeycutt on the television series MASH. Why? Here. He is also an activist and a public speaker for various political causes, which is probably why that joke's funny and over our heads.
Man, did he hate Wayne Rogers.
Goodbye, homie. Here's Dr. Hibbert's number in case you feel weak.
Don't worry. Duff's not going to let me waste away to nothing.
And Bart points out, Dad, and literally one sign over, or one like pole to chain yourself to over, there is a skeleton of a woman holding a chair, sitting in a folding chair, much like Homer, only her sign says, clean the ladies' room. We see a couple of Springfield residents walk by. The funniest interaction is when Milhouse and his dad walk by, and he says, "What a great ball game. Thanks, weekend dad."
Stop calling me that.
Homer is still trying to point out that this team is liars and trying to move the team to Albuquerque.
Hey,
but they're
kid
like,
and man.
That's crazy. It would have been on talk radio like Sports Chat or Sports Jilla and the Jabberjocks.
Yeah.
Why, you little rock?
But he's tied down to the chair, so he can't.
He's like a chained animal going after people at the zoo, which is probably not something that actually happens ever, because I don't think animals are chained at the zoo. But you know what I mean.
The dog in the yard from
there
the
you
90s.
Go. Homer is really struggling, and even at one point, an ice cream cone lands on his face, but he won't eat it.
That's freaking Skinner and Krabappel with some naughty language over there.
Yeah, it's not in the script here, but they do have like a midnight stroll.
Edna has that ice cream cone, and she's like, "Oh, this is gonna go straight to my hips." And Skinner's like, "That's not the only thing." And he puts his hand down there, and you're like, "Whoa, where did this come from, Skinner?"
Homer's hunger strike is taking a toll on the rest of the family as well, because back at the Simpsons' home, Marge is crying for help as there's still more meatloaf. Bart can't even believe it. He says it's outright impossible. But Marge points out that they're all going to have to pitch in to try to eat their father's share.
Why don't you just cook less?
I don't do things that way, Lisa.
But even like Maggie's belly is like poking out from under her shirt in the scene. Like they're all super.
Animation is great here because they all have protruded stomachs.
And they've barely made a dent in like the total amount of meatloaf or what. Yeah, that's the whole pan is almost full. It's like
so much meatloaf.
Full.
And I do love that Lisa has the obvious like correct answer, and Marge is like, I don't do it that way.
Or use leftovers later. I don't know.
Right? Leftovers, like question mark, literally a phrase you've said to me many times. Homer is still chained to this pole, singing and dancing, sorta. He's trying to like dance away the hunger pains, as he says. But it doesn't make his cause, or it doesn't make him look any less crazy for his cause, we should say.
I'm kind of like Jesus, but not in a sacrilegious way.
Geez, Homer's losing it already.
Yeah, but his weary shuffling makes my heart smile.
As Homer continues to complain of his hunger and his stomach growls, Ralph and his dad walk by. His tummy sounds angry, Daddy.
Yeah, that's his stomach eating itself.
Mr. Duff the Eighth and Duffman are watching as very villainous. Like it reminds me of some ways of like Mr. Burns and Smithers, and anytime they're like, spying on their staff type of thing. But they're basically realizing that Homer is actually kind of charismatic, and he's starting to, gather a crowd around him. People, as Mr. Duff points out, people seem to be drawn to that kook. maybe we can exploit it.
I love the line before that, though, when he's searching for where the crowd's at, when he's looking at the ballpark. And like when I was a kid, I used to yell this all the time. Duffman is thrusting in the direction of the problem. And he starts pelvic thrusting out the window.
Yeah. Just in case your friend's kid's watching, we'll keep that PG. But yeah, he's throwing a portion of his body in the general direction of the crowd.
We all did that when we were kids and saw this episode.
Hey, none of us would be here if it weren't for that motion. So yeah, I think it's fine to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's too dangerous, sir. He knows about Albuquerque. Duffman is cautious cat.
No, listen. Fans love wackos. Remember that busty woman who ran out of the field and farted at the ball players? I think we found our newest attraction.
Duffman has a bad feeling about this.
Can it, Sid?
Why don't you... Duffman actually breaks character and he's like, why don't you can it, Howard?
Which I think we've had... We've had a Sid. I don't remember if we had a Sid before, but I know there's like a Sid and a Larry. Like Duffman seems to change his real name constantly.
Maybe it's various different men playing the character of Duffman.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah.
Or they all keep dying.
It's like Santa, dude. You can't be everywhere at once. He has to hire his friends to help him deliver presents on Christmas Eve. Like, which, just in case your friend's kid's watching, we don't break the illusion of Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, I just got a little sad that what if somebody is actually an irresponsible enough parent that their kids do believe in Santa, but also listen to this show? It's okay. That's not a Venn diagram that exists.
That's a whole other podcast that we have to have a discussion on.
Yeah, dude, not happening. It's cool. No one that young watches The Simpsons. Let's be realistic.
We said that because we were at the flower shop.
Homer is asleep out in the parking lot, but they send two men to basically relocate him to the center field. Like at baseball fields, there's always that grassy area out in center field, or at least I think
he's in the home run. He's in the home run area.
Yeah,
so
that's what.
On the field.
That's what I'm trying to say. In the stadium, I should say, not on the field. You're right, but it's like the grassy area out in the stands where the fireworks come from, quite literally in this case, because they have them chained up in between the two mortar sections where the explosives come out. And even as they warn them about them, but then somebody hits a home run, they're like, gotta go. So Homer is isolated now enough from the rest of the fans that people can't really hear what he's saying. They can only hear that he is screaming like a buffoon, essentially, still trying to warn people. And also, mind you, he is correct. Remember that they are, in fact, trying to move the isotopes to Albuquerque. But because nobody can hear him, they're taking advantage of that fact by having the announcers saying things like, look at him, folks. He's the most #1 fan of the isotopes. He's saying go Topes now.
He said, he's on a strike until the Topes win a pennant. And everyone's cheering him for that.
Yeah. Again, they really are exploiting his cause and covering up what he's actually trying to do.
Mm-hmm. It's honestly, this happened so quickly and easily that it terrified me that stuff like this happens in real life.
Oh, I'm sure it happens all the time. Yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, there's all those cases where people sell their likeness or, do a voice recording and then end up supporting something that they never would.
Mm-hmm.
Marge actually shows up in Mr. Duff's office to complain about the treatment her husband is going through. It's been a whole week. Why are you letting my husband die? What does it have to do with baseball?
Death is a part of baseball.
Oh, yeah, the main part.
Guys.
Duffman silences him. We won't let any harm come to your husband, Mrs. Simpson. He's fine.
He's not moving.
And as they peek through the telescope, you can actually see Homer's passed out and there are literally flies buzzing around him.
And then Henry Duff the Eighth, he's probably resting from all the moving he did before you got here. We'll start moving in a second. I'm sure of it. Turn on the sprinklers.
They trying to get him to move at all, but he just weakly rolls over. You see there, he's fine.
Oh yeah, look at him go.
And Marge is not happy. She grumbles, but I mean, what is she gonna do, right? You can't fight baseball. Well, they're bigger than the souvenir industry.
But the thing here is that Homer is not caving. the reason she can't do anything is Homer hasn't given up.
Yeah, that's true. And this
He's
is
been
actually
going without food for a week, dude. That's huge.
Oh, dude, I couldn't do it. I'm nowhere near.
Huh.
I guarantee you, I couldn't do it. I am way too weak to make. I literally would have like picked up the sausage she dropped earlier off the floor and been like, "Hey, just kidding." Like that's how long I would have lasted.
I would be absolutely dead.
Well, yeah, that's you. You literally can't do it for other reasons, but Homer is starting to break, though. Admittedly, he's struggling. He's out there. He's hungry. He's the smallest we've ever seen him by far. They even talk about that in the commentary, too. Like, this is the thinnest he's ever been drawn. He's almost crying. I'm so hungry. Why am I even starving myself? No one cares. And he sees a half-eaten pretzel lying on the grass in front of him, and he starts to crawl for it painfully. But right as he reaches his hand over it, a man in a white suit appears and steps on his hand, blocking him from picking up the pretzel. And he just looks up and cries, "Who are you?"
The spirit of Cesar Chavez.
Well, then why do you look like Cesar Romero?
Because you don't know what Cesar Chavez looks like.
That's such a good joke with such a good setup from earlier, because that's the person that Lisa recommends him to, be inspired by for leading that hunger strike. And obviously, Homer would have no idea what he looks like, but it's essentially his like a spirit, helper guide type person, because he comes.
I think he's just tripping right now because he's like on the verge of death. And this is
I think it's his brain for sure. The scientific definition is his brain is causing him to hallucinate, but it's telling him to not give up.
Oh, but I wanna.
The executives are actually like Mr. Duff and Duffman and all the execs are watching on in horror because they can see him talking to himself. And they're like, it's probably time we replace him with another weirdo. How about paint drinking Pete?
Starting to smell. Oh, they said the center fielder was complaining about the smell.
Yeah, that's Homer. But they still have one more idea of a publicity stunt that Homer can do for the Topes. They decide to bring out a microphone on the field, and Mr. Duff is like, "Well, Homer, your hunger strike lasted 12 amazing days."
This is just hubris, Miles. Oh, me so hungry.
Of course you are hungry, Homer. So why not break your fast with our new Isotope Dog Supreme? And Duffman actually brings out a hot dog topped with some 3 distinct looking flavors of toppings, we'll say.
Oh, so hard to resist. Mesquite grilled onions. Jalapeno relish. Huh? Wait a minute. Those are Southwestern ingredients. Mango lime salsa? That's the kind of bold flavor they enjoy in Albuquerque.
And the whole crowd gasps again. And in the stands, they start to realize, oh my God, he's right. And they look at their own hot dogs that they've been buying. And I guess in an effort to save money, they had already started printing them in Albuquerque isotope wraps. And everybody immediately realizes Homer was right this entire time. He's not just a crazy raving lunatic. He was onto them and he caught them red-handed. And they've been covering it up. They are planning to move the team.
For some reason, I remember this episode where like the rapper was underneath the other rapper, and I didn't remember it just blatantly being just the rapper.
Dude, I gotta be honest, as I was rewatching this episode, I remembered chunks of this episode, but I remembered very, very few details of this episode.
Nice. That's some good surprises for you then.
It made me enjoy it a lot. Like this one this one hit harder than I thought it was going to.
Aw. But the crowd's angry now at Henry Duff VIII.
Yeah, I mean, he's been caught in a lie, and worse, he's been like torturing a guy to cover up his lie.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Duff tells Duffman to get Homer out of sight, but Homer asks him not to and is like reminding him, hey, for once in your life, Duffman, why don't you stand up for the little guy?
This is that Luke Skywalker talking to Anakin Skywalker in front of the Emperor Palpatine moment here.
Yeah. In a kind of a weird moment, Duffman is kind of does like a what would Jesus do situation, and he ends up throwing his ball, picking up like WWE style, twirling him and throwing him into the stands.
Just as Jesus would have done.
Exactly like the Lord would have done back in the Lorden times.
The Lorden times.
Homer takes a victory lap around the field chanting, eat,
I don't know how.
Eat. Yeah, exactly. But I guess it's because he's literally being fueled by people throwing food down in anger, but he's like catching it kind of like he did in space with the potato chips.
The script, again, did something out of order like it did a few weeks ago. He eats the hot dog that they gave him first. So I think that might have been
that gave him the fuel. That gave him the fuel.
And then he started running around. I mean, it was instantaneous, which is still questionable at best.
Yeah.
He starts running around the field at that point. Which, after not eating for 12 days or 14 days, I think you wouldn't be able to eat that whole hot dog.
I think that you would make you sick, especially with the mango habanero salsa and the jalapeno relish. I mean, all those Southwestern flavors would just make your tummy rumble.
Bold taste of the Southwest.
So while things are crashing down in Springfield, they realize that they're not going to be able to move the team because they're just too passionate of fans. We cut to just a completely absurd ending, but I love it very, very much. It made me laugh so hard. We cut to Albuquerque, where we see a man watching this unfold on television. He looks like he's an important man. It says here he's the mayor. It probably listed that. But he says, dang, that town's got too much spirit. And they click off the TV. Looks like we'll have to steal some other baseball team. Let's see what the Dallas wants for the Cowboys.
That's a football team, sir.
They'll play what I tell them to play. For I am the mayor of Albuquerque.
It's a great ending.
That's it. That's the end of the episode. We're done with this baseball journey. That's the reset.
Most profitable team in all of sports.
We have this lingering potential side story that's happening in the Simpsons universe where the mayor of Albuquerque is trying to buy the Cowboys from Jerry Jones and force them all to play baseball. But we don't know. We're just going to keep focusing on this nuclear family we all know and love so fucking much. All right, that was an episode. That does bring us to the end of Hungry Hungry Homer. Richie, do you or that book of yours have anything else that you want to say?
We forgot to bring up the name of the salon that Homer went into.
We sure did, yeah.
And it was called Harry Shearer's, and that was just fantastic.
I love seeing simple,
that.
Beautiful joke. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and man, I just can't say it enough. Homer was right. And he was in the right. Like,
yeah, man.
Again, how often do we get to see that kind of stuff? Like, I don't know. It felt really good, man. And get him to see his accolades at the end. And then I guess they didn't want to do the complete reset, so they cut to the mayor scene, which is fantastic. This episode was just a whole.
For I am the mayor of Albuquerque.
This episode was a whole lot of fun. I remembered liking it, but it held up to how I remembered it, man. So that was pretty cool. So yeah. I feel like we've had some good ones here lately. It's going to make the end of this season a little bit tougher.
Yeah, man. And we are getting oddly close to the end of the season. This is episode number 15, I do believe. And I think there's only like 20 in this season. It's a shorter season than the rest have been. I have a couple of other things I want to bring up. This first one is from the commentary. The hunger strike idea had actually been floating around the Simpsons writers' room for a while, but it was actually tied to a script idea that wasn't made, where Homer was going to fight the helmet laws, and that was based very much on the real-life bicycle helmet laws that were happening in California in the mid to late 90s. So the concept, the rough idea of this version of the script would have essentially had Homer leading a hunger strike against having to wear a helmet. And then while riding his bicycle without a helmet, he becomes so weak from hunger striking that he, in fact, passes out, falls on his head, and gets a concussion. They decided to leave big parts of that on the cutting room floor and tied it into this script with this baseball team instead. Something a little bit more fun. And actually, a friend of mine has one of their shirts, and I think it's really, really cool. this concept of the isotopes moving from Springfield to the isotopes moving from Springfield to Albuquerque actually inspired a real life name change for a minor league Albuquerque team. It was called the Albuquerque, or it was a poll that was placed in the Albuquerque Tribute. And they actually voted to name the minor league baseball team in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the Isotopes. And that is still true to this day.
That is awesome. That is so awesome.
Bonus little fun fact that is just like a fun, weird coincidence type of situation. When it was actually a Calgary team that moved to Albuquerque in 2003 and became the Isotopes since then. That stadium was built in Albuquerque on Avenue Cesar Chavez, which is of course not a reference to the person in this episode, but just kind of neat that he was referenced in this episode. And then it just so happened that was the street that stadium was built on.
A lot of cool tie-ins there.
Yeah, man. What a time to be alive. Very cool indeed. Guys, that is going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Thank you all again so much for all of you that chat with us online and point out all the mistakes we make and just enjoy our podcast in general, man. We appreciate you appreciating us.
And if you want to continue appreciating us, you can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. I almost said mine. I'm at thewiz_kid23. Again, we're just terrible at this podcasting thing now. The longer we do it, the stupider we get. But most importantly, keep following stupid. Follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
Make sure you come back again next week. If we don't decide to do a Best Darn Everything, which we might, you don't know. The next episode of The Simpsons that we'll be reviewing is Bye Bye Nerdy.
And in that episode, we're really going to give it to Wayne Rogers.
And until next time, you'll listen to what I want you to listen to, for I am the mayor of Albuquerque.